You ever had those moments when you're praying, you're believing, you're doing everything right, and it still feels like nothing's happening? You're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., thinking, God, where are you? Why aren't you showing up for me? That's the place where most people give up. That's the place where faith gets tested for real. But I'm telling you, just because you don't see movement doesn't mean there isn't momentum. Just because heaven is silent doesn't mean heaven is still. God's silence is never absence. It's strategy. He's working, he's moving, he's setting things in motion that your eyes aren't designed to see yet. Think about this. When a seed is planted, it disappears under the soil. You can't see it. You can't feel it. It looks like nothing is happening, but deep beneath that dirt, something powerful is taking place. Roots are forming. Life is developing. The foundation is being laid for something that's going to break through the surface. That's exactly how God works in your life. You pray, you trust, you wait. And while you're waiting, he's working underneath the surface, aligning opportunities, redirecting people, preparing you for what's coming next. But here's what we do. We panic in the dark. We think silence means rejection. We think delay means denial. We think stillness means God forgot about us. No, when God hides his hand, he's testing your heart. When you can't trace what he's doing, that's when you've got to trust who he is. Because if he was faithful before, he's going to be faithful again. That's his track record. You might not see the blueprint, but he's building something that's going to make sense later. The problem is we want God to perform on our schedule. We want instant proof, visible results, immediate signs, but God doesn't operate on your clock. He operates on his purpose, and purpose takes time. Construction takes time. Masterpieces take time. You might feel stuck, but you're not stuck. You're in progress. You're in development. God is moving pieces in the background that you don't even know exist. You might be saying, but I've been waiting for months, for years. I've been praying and nothing's shifting. Let me tell you something. Your waiting is not wasted. Your patience is producing power. Your faith in the silence is building a level of strength you couldn't get any other way. When everything goes quiet, that's when God does his deepest work, because he's stripping away your need for control, your addiction to certainty, your reliance on evidence. He's teaching you to walk by faith, not by sight. There's a reason you can't see everything he's doing. If you saw it all, you'd rush it, you'd interfere, you'd mess up the timing. God's protecting you from premature success, from blessings you're not ready to handle. You think he's withholding something from you, but he's actually holding something for you. There's a huge difference. What looks like delay is divine protection. What looks like silence is sacred setup. You might feel like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, but they're not. Heaven heard you the first time. God doesn't need to announce every move he makes to prove he's working. Sometimes his greatest miracles happen in the dark, in silence, in seasons where you feel forgotten. And then one day it breaks through, the opportunity, the answer, the door, the favor, and you realize it was building the whole time. So when life feels quiet, when your prayers feel unanswered, don't let the silence fool you. You are not being ignored. You are being prepared. The invisible seasons are where destiny gets built, where character gets sharpened, where faith gets real, because faith isn't proven when you see. It's proven when you still believe in what you can't see. Faith doesn't grow when everything is comfortable. Faith doesn't stretch when the path is clear and the blessings are flowing. Faith is built in the fire when everything around you feels uncertain, unstable, and out of your control. That's where the real transformation happens, when life gets hard, when your prayers seem unanswered, when you feel like you're standing in the middle of chaos with no exit in sight. That's when God is sculpting your strength. You don't need faith for the easy days. You need it for the days that knock the wind out of you, the nights that make you question everything you thought you knew. See, we all love the idea of faith until it costs us something. We want the results of faith without the resistance that comes with it. But faith isn't a decoration. It's a discipline. It's not a comfort zone. It's a combat zone. And the fire you're in right now, It's not there to destroy you. It's there to define you. Because faith is not built when life goes your way. It's built when life hits hard and you still choose to trust anyway. When you can say, God, I don't understand this, but I'll still believe. That's when your faith gets muscle. Think of how steel is made. It doesn't become strong by sitting in the shade. It has to face the furnace, the heat, the pressure, the pounding. That's what gives it power. The same is true for you. Every hardship, every disappointment, every closed door, every delay, it's all part of your refining process. God doesn't waste pain. He uses it to purify your purpose. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're being built into someone who can handle what's coming next without collapsing under it. People want to skip the process, but the process is where the power comes from. You can't get endurance without resistance. You can't get strength without struggle. You can't get deep faith without deep fire. If everything in your life was easy, you'd never know what God could do through difficulty. You'd never discover the kind of faith that keeps you standing when everything else falls apart. It's in the breakdowns that God builds breakthroughs. When you're in the middle of that heat, it's easy to ask, why me? Why now? Why this? But maybe the better question is, what is this building in me? Because there's always something being built inside the fire. Character, resilience, confidence, faith. God isn't just after your comfort. He's after your growth. He knows you can't reach your full potential without some pressure. You can't lead if you've never been broken. You can't inspire if you've never been tested. You can't carry big blessings if you've never carried big burdens. The fire teaches you to rely on God, not your circumstances. It strips away the illusion that you're in control. It forces you to let go of your own strength and lean into His. And that's where real faith begins, when you stop trusting the plan and start trusting the planner. When you stop needing all the answers and just say, God, I know you've got this, even if I don't. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains. Every great story in history was written in the middle of a storm. Every person who carried great purpose first carried great pain. The difference between those who gave up and those who rose up is one thing: faith that refused to quit. The kind of faith that says, even if I walk through fire, I won't fear. Even if I lose everything, I'll keep believing. Even when I can't see it, I'll keep standing. That's how unshakable faith is built, not in comfort, but in the crucible of challenge. Storms don't come to destroy you. They come to develop you. They come to shake loose the parts of you that can't handle the next level. You can't build strength without resistance, and you can't grow faith without a fight. Every time life knocks you down, every time circumstances hit you harder than you expected, that's not a sign that God has abandoned you. It's a sign that He's upgrading you. You can't stay soft and step into purpose at the same time. God uses storms to toughen your spirit, to wake up your faith, and to teach you that His power works best when your strength runs out. Think about when everything in life is calm, we rarely grow. Comfort breeds complacency, and complacency kills calling. But the moment the wind starts to blow, the moment the waves rise up and things get uncertain, suddenly we start praying harder, focusing sharper, believing deeper. The storm doesn't just test your faith, it reveals it. You don't know what's really inside you until life hits you hard. The storm strips away fake confidence and exposes real trust. It shows you whether you've been depending on your own plan or God's promise. Sometimes we ask God to calm the storm, but He doesn't. Instead, He calms us in the middle of it, because His goal isn't always to remove the pressure. It's to strengthen your spirit under pressure. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. You can't learn endurance by escaping difficulty. You learn it by enduring difficulty. Every trial that didn't take you out trained you for something greater. You're stronger than you were before because of what you've walked through. You see, God allows storms not to destroy your life, but to deepen your faith. He knows that what you conquer in private storms will prepare you for public influence. You can't lead others through battles you've never fought. You can't speak peace into someone else's chaos if you've never learned how to find peace in your own. God doesn't just use calm moments to build leaders, he uses chaos. And if you're in chaos right now, it might be the very evidence that God is shaping something powerful inside you. There's a version of you that only pain can produce. There's a strength that only storms can awaken. You can't access that next level of spiritual maturity, confidence, or wisdom without walking through something that demands it. When you face trials, it's not punishment, it's preparation. You're being stretched, refined, and conditioned for the weight of what's coming. The people who quit in the storm never see what the storm was setting up. The people who keep trusting, keep standing, keep praising in the middle of the thunder. Those are the ones who walk out stronger, wiser, and more anointed than before. You can't control the storm, but you can control your posture in it. You can choose to panic or you can choose to trust. You can choose to fear or you can choose to fight. Faith doesn't mean the storm disappears. Faith means you learn how to walk through it with peace. Even when the sky is dark, even when you can't see the shore, you keep believing that God's hand is steady on the wheel. You might not understand how it all fits together right now, but every wave that hits you is shaping you, building endurance, and preparing you for what's next. The storm that feels like it's breaking you might actually be building you. Every tear, every delay, every struggle, it's not wasted. God is using it to grow something in you that success never could. He's training your eyes to see beyond what's visible, your heart to hold on when everything shakes, and your faith to stand unshaken when the world around you trembles. Your words are not just sounds, they're seeds. Every time you open your mouth, you're planting something in your future. The words you speak in the middle of your pain determine whether you stay stuck or rise stronger. Most people don't lose the battle because of what happens around them. They lose it because of what they say about what's happening. You can't speak defeat and expect victory. You can't speak fear and expect faith to grow. The power of life and death is in your tongue. And if you want to see breakthrough, you've got to start speaking it before you see it. Faith isn't quiet. It declares things that haven't happened yet. When life gets dark, your words become your light. When fear starts screaming, your faith has to speak louder. It's easy to talk big when everything's going right, but the real test is what comes out of your mouth when everything goes wrong. The words you release in the storm reveal what you really believe about God. You can't talk faith on Sunday and speak fear on Monday. You can't worship with your lips and then worry with your words. If you truly believe that God is in control, then your speech has to sound like it. You've got to learn to speak faith, even when your emotions are screaming the opposite. Faith-filled people talk different. They walk into chaos and still declare peace. They face obstacles and still declare victory. They don't let what they see dictate what they say. They let what God promised dictate what they speak. You might not see healing yet, but you speak it. You might not see breakthrough yet, but you declare it. You might not feel strong right now, but you say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, because your words are not just expressions. They are prophecies. Every time you speak, you're either reinforcing your faith or feeding your fear. Fear will always try to hijack your language. It'll whisper things like, you're not enough. It's never going to change. You failed too many times. And the moment you agree with those lies, you give fear authority it doesn't deserve. You can't stop fear from knocking, but you can stop it from setting up camp in your speech. You fight fear with words of faith. You declare truth louder than your doubts. When everything inside you says, this is over, your mouth should say, no, God's still working. When your circumstances scream, you've lost, you respond, I'm still standing. Because faith is not a feeling. It's a language. The greatest shift you'll ever make in your life starts with how you talk. Stop rehearsing the problem and start declaring the promise. Stop repeating the enemy's lies and start speaking God's truth. Don't describe your situation. Define it by God's word. You're not broke. You're being prepared for overflow. You're not lost. You're being redirected. You're not forgotten. You're being positioned. The way you frame your words frames your world. The more you speak faith, the more you start to see faith-filled results. Every time you open your mouth, heaven listens, and so does hell. Your words set the tone for what realm gets activated in your life. Speak defeat, and you empower the enemy. Speak victory, and you invite divine intervention. There's power in what you declare when you can't see any evidence yet. That's why the greatest warriors don't waste words. They weaponize them. When they speak, they release faith into the atmosphere. They call things that are not as though they already are. They speak God's promises as if they've already come to pass. The enemy doesn't need to silence your faith. He just needs to shift your speech. If he can get you to confess fear, he can get you to quit. But if you can train your tongue to align with faith, there's nothing he can do to stop what God is building in your life. Faith doesn't deny reality. It declares a greater reality. It looks at the mountain and says, move. It looks at the valley and says, I'm walking through. It looks at the darkness and says, light is coming. Because when you speak faith, you're not describing what you see. You're declaring what God's about to do. Delay doesn't mean denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. We live in a culture obsessed with speed, instant results, overnight success, quick fixes. But God doesn't move on demand. He moves on design. Every delay you're facing has divine purpose behind it. The moment you start thinking he's forgotten you, that's usually when he's working the hardest behind the scenes. You think he's late, but he's actually right on time. His time, not yours. The waiting room is never wasted space. It's where he strengthens what's weak, matures what's unfinished, and aligns what's out of order so that when the blessing shows up, you're ready to carry it without breaking. We hate waiting because it exposes what's inside us. Waiting reveals whether we trust the promise or we only trust the pace. Most people lose faith not because the promise isn't real, but because it's not fast. But God doesn't rush destiny. He takes his time because he's not just preparing the blessing, he's preparing you for it. A blessing that comes too early can crush you. What good is promotion if your character isn't strong enough to sustain it? What good is opportunity if your faith can't handle pressure? That's why God slows you down, because he's building depth before he gives you height. Look at how nature works. A tree that grows fast has shallow roots, but a tree that grows slow digs deep. When the storm comes, it's not the tall tree that survives, it's the rooted one. That's exactly why some doors haven't opened yet, why some prayers haven't been answered, why some dreams are still on pause. God's digging your roots deep. He's making sure that when you finally step into that next level, you won't collapse under the weight of it. He's not withholding something from you. He's protecting something in you. We've got to stop confusing God's patience with his absence. The delay isn't a sign that he said no. It's proof that he's crafting something better than you expected. Sometimes you're asking for good when God's trying to give you great. You're asking for convenience while he's preparing legacy. You want comfort, but he's building character. So he waits, not because he's cruel, but because he cares too much to give you something you're not ready to sustain. The waiting season is where your faith is proven. Anybody can believe when things happen fast, but it takes real faith to believe when the clock keeps ticking and nothing changes. It's in those long stretches of silence that God measures your trust. Are you going to keep believing even when the evidence disappears? Are you going to keep showing up even when you don't see results? That's the kind of faith that moves heaven, the kind that doesn't demand proof before it believes. Every person who's ever done something great with God had to wait. Joseph waited years in prison before stepping into the palace. Abraham waited decades before holding the promise. David waited through battles before wearing the crown. Waiting is not a punishment. It's a process. You might feel like life's on hold, but in reality, God is holding you together while he prepares the next season. What feels like a standstill is often a setup. You may be asking, why isn't it happening yet? Because God's timing is attached to your development. If he gave it to you now, you'd enjoy it temporarily, but lose it permanently. He's more interested in you being ready than you being comfortable. The delay is divine protection in disguise. It's God's way of ensuring that when the door opens, you'll walk through it with the wisdom, humility, and strength to stay there. So when it feels like nothing's moving, remember that God's silence doesn't mean stillness. He's orchestrating the unseen, connecting the pieces, preparing the hearts, and aligning the timing. You're not behind schedule. You're right on his schedule. Delay is not denial. It's divine preparation dressed as patience. Even when you can't see what God is doing, he's still working. Just because your eyes can't track him doesn't mean his hands aren't moving. The invisible realm is more real than the one you can touch. And God does his greatest work in places you can't observe. You might look around and think nothing's changing, but heaven is in motion. Things are shifting, hearts are softening, opportunities are aligning, and answers are being written into your story. God doesn't always announce his moves. Sometimes he moves in silence so that your trust grows louder than your sight. You have to understand God is a behind-the-scenes strategist. While you're stressing about how things look on the surface, he's in the background working every detail for your good. You're focused on what's visible, but he's adjusting what's invisible. You see the problem? He sees the process. You see the setback. He sees the setup. You see the pain. He sees the purpose. That's why you can't base your faith on what your eyes tell you. Eyes see facts, but faith sees truth. Faith says, even if I don't see it, I know he's still working. Even if I don't feel it, I know he's still faithful. God's timing is often disguised as mystery. He lets things stay hidden because what he's building requires quiet. He doesn't need your observation. He needs your obedience. If he showed you everything he was doing, you'd either try to fix it or rush it. But he works in ways that protect his plan from your impatience. While you're waiting for things to make sense, he's weaving a masterpiece out of threads you think don't belong together. The job that didn't come through, the friendship that ended, the door that closed, every one of those things is a piece in the design he's been constructing behind the curtain. We often say we trust God, but trust isn't proven when you see results. It's proven when you see nothing and keep believing anyway. That's where real faith lives, in the dark, in the unknown, in the silence. It's easy to believe when everything lines up, but the real test is believing when nothing makes sense. God is not looking for people who only praise him after the miracle. He's looking for people who can praise him while the miracle is still in motion. Because the truth is, while you're doubting, he's delivering. While you're crying, he's creating. While you're waiting, he's working. You have no idea how many times God has protected you from things you never saw. The opportunities that fell through may have saved you from distraction. The people who walked away may have been removed to make room for something greater. God sees what you can't, and he's too wise to be mistaken. You don't have to understand the plan to trust that there is one. What's invisible to you is intentional to him. When it looks like nothing's happening, that's often when the most is happening. He's building answers into the parts of your story you haven't reached yet. There are times when God hides his hand to strengthen your heart. If you saw how everything was going to play out, you wouldn't need faith. He conceals his work because faith requires mystery. And mystery isn't meant to frustrate you. It's meant to form you. It teaches you to trust his nature more than your knowledge. You don't need to know every detail. You just need to know he's good. He's faithful, and he's in control. Every moment of confusion, every unanswered prayer, every delay, it's all part of his unseen activity. God doesn't waste time. He invests it. Every second he's silent, he's still sovereign. Every time you feel forgotten, he's actually focused on you. The unseen hand of God is always moving pieces you don't even realize are connected. You might not see it right now, but one day you'll look back and realize that even when you couldn't see it, he was working all along.